Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into, well, some really fascinating and honestly sometimes unsettling territory you've pointed us towards. We're exploring that weird space where memory, perception, and what we call reality might actually be diverging. So our mission today is to unpack two big ideas. The Mandela effect, which lots of people talk about, and then we're going to dip into the, let's say, more fantastical but really compelling idea of parallel worlds. And we're doing this by looking at a bunch of really interesting firsthand stories you shared.
Yeah, it's a great topic for this. I mean, as humans, we're just sort of wired to find explanations when things don't quite add up, you know? And the stories we're looking at today, they really challenge our usual understanding of how things work. They kind of invite us to look a bit deeper.
Absolutely. And our main source for this deep dive is a YouTube video transcript. It's from the channel Dusisreal, and the title translates roughly to Parallel Worlds and Interesting Stories. It's basically a collection of personal experiences. So our goal is to unpack these stories, pull out the really thought-provoking bits, maybe connect them to some bigger theories, and just see what aha moments pop up about, well, reality itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. All right, so the Mandela effect. Lots of us have probably heard the term, seen it online, you know, that feeling of a shared glitch in reality. But just for anyone new to it or needing a quick reminder, how does our source material actually define it?
Right, so the source explains it as basically a psychological thing where a pretty large group of people, they all misremember the exact same detail or the same event, and they remember it the same wrong way, even though the actual facts, objective reality, show something different. It's not just one person forgetting, it's this shared incorrect memory.
And the name itself, Mandela effect, that comes from a specific, pretty well-known story, doesn't it? Yeah, it's quite striking, actually. It's named after Nelson Mandela because apparently tons of people vividly remembered him dying back in prison, you know, in the 1980s. But of course, he was released, became president, and actually passed away in 2013. So that huge collective gap between memory and fact is what gave the phenomenon its name.
Wow, that's a really stark example.
Ugh.
And our source points out some other really common ones too, right? The kind that make you pause and think, wait, did I remember that wrong too?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are a few classics, like Pikachu's tail. So many people swear it has a black tip.
I think I might be one of them.
Right, but it's actually all yellow, except for the base, you know? Or that famous Star Wars line. Everyone seems to quote, "Luke, I am your father."
But it's no, I am your father, isn't it?
Exactly. No, I am your father. And maybe the one that drives people craziest is the Kit Kat logo. A lot of people distinctly remember a hyphen, you know, Kit Kat.
Guilty, I definitely remember a hyphen.
See? But look it up, it's just one word, Kit Kat. No hyphen. It really makes you second guess what you think you know for sure.
It really does. So, okay, for all these shared misrememberings, what are the sort of standard, logical, maybe scientific explanations the source offers? What do psychologists usually point to?
Well, the source mentions a few key ideas. One is basically false collective memory. Like a group kind of constructs an incorrect memory together, and then it gets reinforced through repetition, maybe online or in conversations.
Okay, that makes sense.
Another thing is just how our brains work. They tend to fill in gaps in our memories or maybe subtly change them over time. Memory isn't like a perfect video recording. It's more like rebuilding the story each time.
Right, reconstruction.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the huge influence of, well, everything around us. Media, movies, pop culture, memes. Even just misinformation spreading can lead to lots of people sharing the same inaccurate memory. What's really insightful, I think, isn't just that our memory can be faulty, but how our shared sense of reality can kind of agree on something that isn't true. It shows how social memory is, you know?
That makes the line between objective reality and perceived reality feel a bit blurry.
Precisely. Now, while those logical explanations cover a lot of the Mandela effect stuff, our source material then makes a pretty clear shift. It basically says, okay, the Mandela effect is one thing, but some stories seem to go beyond simple memory errors. They venture into something the source calls more fictional and much more interesting, the idea of parallel worlds.
Okay, yeah, this is where it starts to get really wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're moving past just like misremembering a logo. We're getting into stories where reality itself seems to have twisted or changed fundamentally for the person involved. I'm really curious what sets these apart for you.
Exactly. So as we get into these next few accounts, I'd encourage you listening to think about what elements here really push back against a simple psychological explanation. What makes you think maybe something else is going on? These stories suggest a more, well, radical kind of shift, maybe like the multiverse hypothesis you hear about sometimes. The idea that our universe might be just one of many.
Right, like infinite possibilities playing out.
Sort of. And applied here, maybe these strange events are like jumps, doing slightly different realities.
Okay, let's dive into that. Our first story comes from a forum user. It starts super normally, just a date night. But then, not so normal.
Right. So this guy and his girlfriend, they'd been together for several years, apparently. They go to the movies, standard stuff. As they're leaving, he steps aside to take a quick phone call, falls, maybe a few steps behind her.
And that's the moment, the switch. When he finishes his call and looks up, catches up to where she should be. The woman waiting for him has the exact same clothes, same hair, same posture. But her face is completely different, someone he's never seen before in his life.
Yeah, imagine that. His first thought, naturally, is disbelief. He thinks it's got to be some kind of prank, right? Like maybe she hired an actress. But the chill sets in when this new woman turns and talks to him like she is his girlfriend. She knows their shared history, references past events accurately. She even gets annoyed at him for being on the phone, saying it was over 10 minutes when he felt like it was only a couple of minutes. That little time discrepancy is interesting, too.
And it gets weirder when he interacts with others, right, like his family.
Oh, absolutely. He takes her home, probably freaking out inside, and his family acts completely normal. They see nothing wrong. In fact, they think he's acting weird. They're asking him what's wrong, why he's being strange towards his girlfriend. To everyone else, she's just her.
Wow. So he starts looking for proof, trying to find evidence of the girlfriend he remembers.
Desperately, he checks his phone, looking for photos of them together, photos of his original girlfriend. But every picture, even old couple photos, now shows the face of this new woman. It's like his entire digital history with her was rewritten. He talks to friends, family, even dibs up old school records, apparently. But everything and everyone confirms this new reality. Even her childhood photos, they now show this unfamiliar face. It's as if she'd always looked like this to the rest of the world.
Okay, that's deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
But amidst all that confusion, there was one specific thing that didn't match up for him, right? The spicy food detail.
Yes, that's the crucial inconsistency. His original girlfriend, the one he remembers, absolutely loved spicy food. They apparently ate it together all the time. But this new woman, she couldn't handle spicy food at all, hated it. And he actually found an old photo of them eating spicy hot pot. And get this, even though her face in the photo was now the new face, the context was undeniable. When he showed it to her, she was genuinely confused, said she'd never eaten spicy food, couldn't imagine eating it. That one detail just didn't fit her new altered history.
And he considered other explanations, like Capgras syndrome.
Right, he thought about that. Capgras is where you believe a loved one has been replaced by an identical imposter. But the key here is her face wasn't identical. It was completely different.
So it wasn't Capgras. And just saying memory loss doesn't work either because of the photos changing and that very specific, concrete contradiction about the food.
Exactly. If the physical evidence like photos also changed, it pushes it beyond just his subjective experience. It implies something shifted in the external reality, at least from his perspective. And the source adds two other little odd details. Apparently, the new girlfriend's face, while unfamiliar to him, still had features that resembled her parents, the original parents, like maybe a different genetic outcome from the same people.
Strange.
And that time thing, again, him feeling the call was short, her saying it was over 10 minutes. These little inconsistencies, they seem small, but they add up. They suggest something more profound than just him being confused or delusional. The really scary insight here, perhaps, is the idea that your personal reality, your coherent experience, might actually be separate from the consensus reality everyone else shares.
That's a heavy thought. So listening to this, how does it make you feel about your own daily life? Could the people you know, the memories you share, be less fixed than you imagine? Okay, let's shift gears to another story. This one was apparently a forum post back in 2019, got a lot of attention. It involves evidence later provided by the author, too. This is the really baffling story of Pam Bowen, the friend who vanished.
Yeah, this one is really something. It starts with a group of high school kids. There's the author, called Shaheng, his friend Pam Bowen, and two others, Elle and Xiaowen. They're just playing badminton near an old, abandoned dormitory building.
And it starts innocently enough, right? The shuttlecock goes astray.
Exactly. Their shuttlecock accidentally falls down into the basement ventilation shaft of this deserted building. Pam Bowen, being adventurous, suggests they go in and try to get it back.
Okay. Creepy abandoned building. Never a good sign.
You got it. So they go into this dark, eerie basement. Pam Bowen splits off for a second, thinks he might have dropped his keys earlier, and goes to look for them. Meanwhile, Shang and Elle go deeper into the basement, searching for the lost shuttlecock.
And then the exit gets really weird. They see a light, head towards it.
Right, they see light at the end of a corridor, run towards it, find some stairs, and climb out. Only when they get outside, they realize they're suddenly next to an elementary school, and it's dismissal time. Kids are pouring out, which means they must have been inside that basement for way, way longer than they thought. They lost a chunk of time somehow.
Okay, disorientation, time loss.
Mm.
But then comes the real shocker.
The real shocker. They go back to find their friend, Xiao Wen, who'd waited outside the dorm, and Xiao Wen has absolutely no memory of Pan Bowen even being with them at all. And it gets worse. Nobody in their class remembers Pan Bowen. School records. No trace. Photos they were sure he was in. He's not there. Even Pan Bowen's supposed family denies he ever existed.
It's like he was completely erased. Not just forgotten, but literally erased from existence for everyone except Shang and Elle.
Exactly, and you can imagine the impact on Sheng and Elle. They keep insisting Pan Bowen was real, that he was their friend, but everyone else just sees them as delusional, maybe traumatized by the abandoned building. They get isolated. Elle apparently got kicked out of a class group chat because he wouldn't stop asking about Pan Bowen, causing issues for his family too. It shows how powerful that consensus reality is.
But there was a later confession from Shang, wasn't there? Say he made it up.
Yeah. Under a lot of public pressure, Shang eventually said he fabricated the whole story. But the source makes an interesting point. It mentions some earlier chat messages from Elle, the other friend, where Elle basically says he doesn't want to talk about Pan Bowen anymore, that it's causing too much trouble. That sounds less like someone admitting a shared lie, and more like someone reluctantly, painfully giving up and accepting the new reality where Pan Bowen doesn't exist. Almost like he was forced to conform.
So maybe the story isn't really about Pan Bowen vanishing.
Right.
Maybe it's about Shang and Elle.
That's exactly where the multiverse idea comes back in. Some people interpret this story through that lens. What if Sheng Hang and Elle were the ones who actually shifted? They entered the basement in a reality with Pan Bowen, but somehow exited into a slightly different reality without him. In this view, they are the anomalies, the ones who crossed over, finding themselves in a world where their friend simply never was.
Wow. It flips the whole thing on its head. They weren't delusional, they were displaced.
It's a chilling possibility, isn't it? That maybe it wasn't the friend who vanished, but the entire reality they knew, replaced by one almost identical, but crucially different.
So think about that. What if sometimes it's not the world changing, but us subtly shifting from one version of reality to another, without even realizing what we left behind? Okay, let's move to a very personal story now. This is a first-person account from someone looking back at an experience in 2002 when they were a kid. A really unsettling New Year's Eve.
Right, this one feels different, more atmospheric maybe. The narrator was young, maybe second grade. It's New Year's Eve, and their family is having dinner at an aunt's apartment. The aunt lives on the 4th floor of an old building. Their own family lives on the 1st floor of the same building. The kid is playing downstairs, outside.
And the weirdness starts when he's told to wait downstairs.
Yeah. His mom locks up their 1st floor apartment, tells him to wait, says they'll call him up for dinner soon. But time passes, it gets dark, nobody calls. Then some other kid steals his toy. He chases him, loses him. So he decides, okay, I'll just go up to the aunt's place myself.
But before he goes up, there's that odd detail about knocking on his own door.
Exactly. He gets back to the ground floor entrance, and he says this weird impulse just hits him, and he knocks on his own family's apartment door. The one he knows is empty and locked because they're all upstairs at the aunt's.
That is strange. Illogical.
Totally illogical. Like something was off, even then. Anyway, he starts heading up the stairs to the 4th floor.
And the journey itself felt wrong.
Very wrong. He describes the stairwell as being unusually dark, much darker than normal. And the climb felt like it took forever, way longer than just going up 3 flights of stairs should.
Okay, setting the scene for something eerie, and then gets to the aunt's apartment.
Yeah, the aunt's apartment, in quotes. His mother opens the door. But instantly, something's wrong. Her hair is up in a bun. His mom never wore her hair in a bun. It was always shoulder length. He goes inside. The living room has this weird, dim, yellow light, not the usual bright white light they had, and it's the only light on in the whole place. Dead quiet. Then his father speaks to him, but his tone is completely off. Really harsh, aggressive, totally unlike his dad.
Okay, this is getting creepy. But the worst part was the staring. right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the absolute peak creep factor. He said everyone in the room, all his family members who were supposed to be there, they just suddenly stopped talking, all at once. And they all turned, slowly, collectively, and just stared at him. Completely silent. Blank faces, no emotion, just staring.
Ah, chills.
Totally. And the TV in the room, just static, no signal. His mother just coldly says it's broken. The whole time he feels them watching him, every single one of them. He makes some excuse, says he forgot something and just needs to leave.
And he bolts.
He bolts, runs down the stairs as fast as he can. He hears a door open behind him on the second floor as he's running, which just terrifies him even more. He bursts out onto the street, and thankfully he sees his real mom, shoulder-length hair and all. She's initially mad he wandered off, but then sees how utterly terrified he is and gets concerned.
So what was the upshot? Did they figure out what happened?
Well, the kid knew instantly that the place he'd been wasn't his real aunt's apartment. And interestingly, his family actually believed his story. They were unsettled enough that they burned some ritualistic offerings, to ward off anything bad. They moved away a few years later, but the author says he still wonders about it. Did he actually step into some kind of parallel space that night?
That's intense. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever been somewhere familiar, but suddenly felt like something was just profoundly off?
Yeah.
Like the place or the people weren't quite right.
All right, let's look at our fourth story. This one is maybe less dramatic, but unsettling in its own way because it's so mundane. It's about a favorite local restaurant. Yeah, this one hits differently because it's about something so routine. The author talks about this specific noodle shop they loved. For about 2 years, they and a friend went there regularly, and they always ordered the same thing, a particular shredded meat topping. It cost 15,000 Vietnamese dong, and it was clearly listed on the big plastic menu hanging on the wall. It was their go-to.
Okay, a familiar routine. But then things change.
They do. They take a break from going for maybe a month or so. When they finally go back, they walk in, order their usual shredded meat topping, and the owner just looks at them blankly, says they've never sold shredded meat topping, ever.
Wait, what? After 2 years of ordering it?
Exactly. And here's the kicker. The denial was absolute and consistent. The big plastic menu on the wall. The author says it looked old, hadn't been changed, even had old pen marks on it. But the shredded meat item was gone, not there anymore. And even the waitress, who'd apparently worked there since the place opened and definitely served it to them before, she also vehemently denied it. Swore they never, ever had that topping.
That's baffling. And the friend's reaction really captures the feeling, right?
Totally. The friend turns to the author and asks that chilling question, what were we eating before? Like, if this thing we know we ate never existed, what does that mean?
Did they ask anyone else about it?
They did, and this is where it gets even weirder. The author asked other friends, family members, anyone who had eaten at that shop with them and presumably ordered or seen the topping, and every single person denied it ever existed. Not just like, oh, I don't remember, but total certainty. Nope, they never had shredded meat. It wasn't just the shop staff, it was everyone else's memory, too.
A collective amnesia about a noodle topping.
Yeah.
But the author found proof later.
Years later, yeah. They were scrolling through old social media photos and found a picture they'd posted of their noodle bowl from that shop. And clear as day, right there in the photo, was the shredded meat topping.
Wow. Photographic evidence.
Photographic evidence of something that, according to everyone else, and even the menu later on, never existed. The shop eventually closed, so the mystery was never really solved for the author, but they had the proof.
That story really makes you question shared experiences, doesn't it? Even something simple like ordering food. What if the physical reality, the menu, the shared memory can just shift? Okay, one last quick story. This one's short, but very pointedly strange. A recent experience the author had.
Yeah, this one is less a narrative and more just a single bizarre event. The author is doing their makeup. Simple enough. Takes out an eyebrow pencil, puts it down on the table, totally normal.
And then physics just breaks.
Pretty much. The author watches this happen. The pencil rolls off the edge of the table, it falls, it hits the floor, bounces once, and then just vanishes midair. Before it could hit the ground a second time, no sound of a second impact, just gone. Whew. And the author emphasizes they don't believe in ghosts or anything supernatural. Their immediate reaction was to get down and search meticulously. Under the table, all over the floor. But the pencil was just gone. No logical explanation for where it could have possibly gone after bouncing. It simply ceased to be there.
That's not just losing something. That really does feel like a glitch in the matrix, like a tiny rip in the fabric of reality for a split second.
Okay, so we've heard these really diverse stories. The girlfriend with a new face, the friend who never existed, the weird New Year's Eve, the noodle topping, the vanishing pencil. When you pull back and look at them all together, what are the common threads? What patterns jump out at you that go beyond just, weird memory? Well, I think the core theme running through all of them is this sudden, really jarring, inexplicable alteration of reality. It's not gradual, it's abrupt. Whether it hits their personal memory, like the girlfriend, or the literal existence of a person like Pan Bowen, or physical objects like the menu or the pencil, or even just the atmosphere and identity of a place like the aunt's apartment, something fundamentally shifts. And the feeling for the person experiencing it is always being out of sync, like they're suddenly operating in a reality that doesn't match up with anyone else's. It really shakes the foundation of, what's stable and real. And crucially, many stories include elements like the changed photos, the collective amnesia, the visual vanishing that seem to defy simple psychological explanations like confabulation or misremembering alone.
Which brings it back to you, listening. Are these just extreme examples of how tricky our minds and memories can be, maybe amplified by stress or suggestion? Or, as some of these stories almost seem to hint, could they be glimpses of something stranger? Is the Mandela effect maybe just the tip of the iceberg, a subtle, collective version of these more dramatic individual reality shifts?
It really raises an important question, doesn't it? We naturally seek logical explanations, and psychology offers many tools. But these specific stories, with their concrete, unexplainable details, they push those boundaries. They force us to ask, what can we actually prove is real? If our personal reality, or even a group's shared reality, can apparently warp so profoundly, even momentarily, what does that say about the true nature of reality itself? How much is solid and how much is negotiable?
It's definitely been a fascinating and, yeah, maybe a little unnerving trip through these accounts. Shifting realities, people vanishing, places feeling wrong, objects disappearing, they all chip away at our sense of a stable world.
And maybe that's the final thought to leave you with. The everyday world, the reality you perceive, the memories you hold, it might all be a bit more fluid, more mysterious than we usually like to think. Are these stories just powerful examples of the brain's amazing but sometimes glitchy ability to build our world? Or could they genuinely point towards phenomena just beyond our current grasp, hinting that reality itself is stranger than we imagine?
Definitely something to chew on until our next deep dive.